I just hate it when I get out of my normal sleep cycle. It just upsets everything.
I've been out of my normal sleep cycle for like a year. I think that probably means I don't have a normal sleep cycle.
Yeah, there might be some distracting noise here and there on my end. I've got a whole bunch of activity upstairs going on today.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And it's your fault.
Okay, hold on. Trying to think of what could possibly be my fault. So, I'm going to put a couple of pieces together. So I did see some pictures on social media from your spouse.
Yes.
About some additions to your household. I was presuming were additions to your household.
Mm-hmm, correct.
So you know we've acquired a couple of additional felines recently.
Yes.
So I presume you have as well?
We have indeed. Once we visited yourself and your family, what was it, like about a month or so ago?
Yeah.
And we got to meet your two new little kittens that put the idea in the brain of the missus to pursue the same thing. And so we have two new kittens in the house.
And so what's the total size of your cat population now?
It is now a population of 4.
Ooh. So you've crossed. I think 3 is sort of the pivot point of, do you just have some cats, or are you starting to become overrun with cats?
Yes,
like
exactly.
It's not unusual to visit somebody who has a cat or two. It does start to become uncommon to have like a whole pack.
It definitely feels like we've crossed a line now.
Right. So you have 2 like mid-range aged or older aged cats?
2 older cats and now 2 young kitten cats.
How has the acclimation of the younger cats to the older cats gone?
They're still in the kind of introduction stage. The older cats don't know quite what to make of these 2 interlopers yet.
Right.
But the 2 kittens they just want to rub all over their new uncles,
Right. Yeah, so we already had one middle-aged cat who is an outdoor cat. I mean, he comes indoors as well, but he likes to go outside. And our 2 kittens are going to be indoor. So it's the acclimation between the 2 has not gone incredibly smoothly. I mean, basically, it's like the kittens want like to be in your face 24/7 and play. Yeah. And this cat comes in, wants to sleep and eat, and is like, has no real particular interest. So they have kind of arrived at a somewhat neutral truce. I should they're not like fighting anymore, but they're not hanging out and swapping stories or anything either. So we do feel a little bad that the kittens have sort of subsumed our main cat attention.
They certainly demand it.
Yeah. But the fact that our older cat was an outdoor cat, he was outside a lot of the time anyway, so it's not like he was putting in the hours for the human affection.
Yeah. So there's a lot of running back and forth and activity upstairs. It's kind of like the banana splits going crazy up there.
Banana splits. Good 80s reference there, Tom.
Earlier than that, I think.
Dude, one of the very earliest entries into augmented reality in entertainment, right?
Whoa. What are you talking about?
Do you remember Banana Splits was this half-hour sort of cartoon show, but one of the segments was the characters from Tom Sawyer, so Tom, Huck, and Becky, and a couple other people. And it was live action, but they would overlay cartoons onto it.
Oh.
Remember that? So it was mostly live action. And they would sort of overlay. Pretty innovative at the time. This was like 1970s. Even at that very young age, Tom, they were messing with reality and perception. Isn't that great?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Banana Splits. You're bringing up an 80s thing like that, which has that nice feel of nostalgia. Reminds me that, so I was grocery shopping with my wife this morning.
Yep.
And just in a sleep-deprived haze in the grocery checkout line, just waiting for the stuff to be checked out, and looking at the pop culture trash magazines. And there's this subsection of grocery line checkout magazines that cater to nostalgia for seniors. So it'll be like, oh, remember when, here's the big bands from the 20s or 30s, or and then you've seen it progressively more for the baby boomer generation. So like
right.
The era of the 60s, wasn't that a crazy time, right? And just with an increasingly gloss over of that element of nostalgia. So I've started to see, and I saw one this morning, this kind of material marketed at people who grew up in the 80s. So there was a whole remember when big movies of the 80s thing being advertised. And so, I'm in my mid going on late 40s, and I'm looking at that and I'm like, they're starting to market to me.
Indeed.
They're presuming that my attention is slowly drifting to my past and that I'm starting to disconnect from the moment. I'm like, how presumptuous, but probably accurate statistically speaking. So,
have you watched Stranger Things?
I saw the opening episode of it.
Yep. And
I really liked the 80s nostalgia shtick they had going on, right? The kids are playing D&D at the beginning.
Yep.
And I'm a huge fan of the font. Right,
that's reason enough to watch the series, right?
Absolutely. That's crazy good. So they obviously have a love of the era and I thought, writing and story-wise, it was character acting-wise, it was all hit all the right buttons for me, except that, and I have a continual problem with this, I've mentioned briefly a couple times earlier, which is I just can't get that into really intensely dark sci-fi.
Yeah.
Even if it's well done. So I had this problem with, was that recent AI, was it called AI? The recent AI movie with the robots there?
Ex Machina?
Yes, thank you. I saw that. I thought it was really well done, but had this like intense, raw, dark projection of the future that I just didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
I had a similar reaction to the most recent Blade Runner movie. I don't know if you got a chance to see that, Tom.
I did.
Where I thought, wow, overall, I thought it was very well done and etc. But there's this sort of intensity of not just thematic darkness, but in terms of the sex and violence that is just not like something I want to be. If in my limited amount of clicks that I have to absorb pop culture entertainment, if I'm going to choose something, it's probably not going to be something like that. So
yeah, you're not a big fan of dystopias?
No, not really. Particularly when they rely or inject that kind of the extreme sex and violence imagery. Again, it's not like an ethical, moral judgment that I'm making. I just like, it's not something I want resonating in my consciousness at that level, I guess. Making that much sense. I'm fine with dystopia, like in terms of, hey, we ought to think about dystopia and all that. I guess I enjoy just personally in terms of recreational consumption of pop culture. I enjoy things that are a little more positive, like Doctor Who and Star Trek. Although I have not seen more than the first half of the first episode of the new Star Trek, but I'm told that is also darker than your typical Star Trek.
Yeah, that seems like it's a bad move for that franchise. But then again, I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm willing to. I actually splurged for the CBS All Access.
Oh, okay.
Just so that I could watch that.
Is that the only way you can get it?
Yeah. So the opening episode was on CBS broadcast, and then the rest of the episodes are on CBS All Access. As our entertainment options continue to splinter.
Yeah.
Splinter and reconnect as the fallout from broadcast/cable/streaming continues to percolate.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like the rest of Blade Runner? To kind of close the book on a micro review of Blade Runner?
Yeah, I really liked it a lot. I thought it was an excellent follow-up to the original. I think I might even liked it better than the original, if you can believe that.
No, so I watched 80% of the original before I saw the sequel here.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually thought, given how old that movie is, that came out early 80s, is that right?
82, I think.
Yeah, so that's, what? It's hard for me to do them at 25 years ago, is that right?
35.
Okay. And I find the vast majority of movies from more than 20 years ago have a real dated sort of feel. And I think there were some sort of still dated aspects of that movie. There's kind of a campy film noir with Harrison Ford's narrative, sort of Maltese Falcon-esque. Is that what I'm talking about? Yeah.
That's only present in the non-preferred cut of the movie, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In the final cut version of Blade Runner, it's been removed, the voiceover.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But it still has the film noir look to it. It just doesn't have the cheesy narration.
Yeah. No, but so when I rewatched the original, I thought it actually held up fairly well, and I remembered what I liked about it, which was, it's funny after having criticized dystopias, talking about dystopia, I liked that it was really patient and unrushed in sort of just presenting an atmosphere, a feel of a world. I think that's one thing that it did well that made it resonate and had it have a lasting influence, is that the story itself is not that complicated.
No, it's not.
Right? It's very simple. It's, in fact, they give you the little paragraph blurb at the very beginning, and that's pretty much all you need for the whole movie. Is that you have Harrison Ford and he's hunting down the replicants, and there you go.
The plot of the new Blade Runner is a lot more sophisticated.
Yeah. Although, even so, I thought that one thing I really liked about the new one is that I thought it had the same kind of unrushed, patient feel of just sort of presenting the feel of a world. And I definitely credit the director, whose name I'm going to let you say.
Denis Villeneuve.
Wow. I would have said Dennis Villeneuve, but...
Yes, we've heard you say that before.
Yeah, okay. But, so I praised the way that he did that in Arrival. Right? That it wasn't just like a nonstop shoot-'em-up action film. It really sort of drew you into the alien feel of it. I thought that this was perfect. There was so many great scenes with the lead actor, Ryan
Gosling.
Thank you. Who would sort of just sit down and look around and observe something, and then the camera would focus on what he was observing, and he would sort of think about it, and then go over and do a little something. And I guess I credit him as well a lot in terms of, there were a lot of scenes that I thought were very communicative where he wasn't saying anything.
Yeah. It was such a joy to just see a movie that wasn't so frenetically paced as all the other sci-fi and action movies are.
Yeah.
It had a very relaxed pace to it. I'm sure a lot of people would find that intensely boring, but I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost 3 hours long. I could have stayed there for another hour easily.
Yeah. I mean, plot and story aside, just the cinematography was just gorgeous.
Yeah. Roger Deakins.
Yeah. There were at least a dozen times where something that was just totally not germane, just the way that they had framed this shot of approaching a building or somebody walking down a hallway was just like, wow, that's just, you could stop that and frame that on your wall. Just really, really beautiful. But so in terms of plot, narrative, story, you liked the follow-up, how they did all that?
Yeah, I did. I really liked it a lot. And as a sequel, it was one of those, we've had a lot of these sequels lately that have been updating a film that came out decades ago. And this is certainly one that did not diminish the original in any way. In fact, I think it complemented it more, and it improved the original in a way, without getting into details for spoiler reasons. But I think it was absolutely a worthy follow-up.
Yeah,
which is always what you worry about when they regurgitate something from that you loved from your youth.
Yeah,
whether it's going to be up to the same quality. And I felt this one was absolutely.
Yeah. I would mostly agree with you. I sort of came away with it with an A- because I did not like a couple of the aspects of the ending. But if we're not going to spoil, I won't mention those.
Okay.
But I would mostly agree with what you said. I think there's like two mistakes that sequels, and kind of speaking more broadly, that like cover songs make. So when you have an original and then you're trying to add or enhance the original, I think the two mistakes are you're either too faithful to the execution of the original, or you are just go completely off the rails. And to me, the ideal sweet spot is that you stay faithful to the spirit of the original, and yet you express it or evolve it in a new way. Like I don't like hearing a cover song that sounds almost exactly like the original. Right? You're not trying to replicate what was already done, because it was already done. And yet, if you're completely off the rails, then you're not really doing it. You're writing a new song. Have you ever heard Devo's cover of "Satisfaction" by the Rolling Stones?
I think I must have, yeah.
Okay. To me, that is the quintessential example of the perfect cover song.
Because it's in their style.
Well, you take an iconic rock and roll song. I mean, one of the most iconic rock and roll songs of all time, and "Satisfaction" by the Rolling Stones, and you take it and you reimagine it and you purely express it as if Devo had written the song, and it's just it's gorgeous. Yeah. So I thought this the sequel to Blade Runner hit the sweet spot of how you should cover it. My problems with the ending aside. How do we get on Blade Runner? I forget.
It was a long string of tangents,
Yeah, what was it?
starting with kittens, I think.
Kittens into what was it?
Banana
dude?
splits.
Oh, that's right, banana splits and nostalgia. Yes. And I can't remember what the rest of it was.
Stranger Things.
Yes. Oh wow, you're good. You take notes?
I'm just trying to rewind it in my mind.
Yes. Oh, you asked me if I liked Stranger Things.
Yeah. The new series of Stranger Things just started up again, so I started watching it again. That's why it's fresh
Okay.
in my mind.
How do you like it?
Oh, I really dig it. Like you said, it's very dark, so that may be a turnoff. But it absolutely nails the look of the 80s and the nostalgia of it. I mean, that is the most appealing thing to me anyway, because those kids in that series are basically our exact generation.
Right.
And all the details in that series, the set dressing, all the props, all the hairstyles, the clothes, the cars, they just nail everything. It's like more 80s than the 80s were, you know?
Wow. Okay.
It's just really fun for someone our age to watch it.
Right.
And it's really well done too,
Yeah.
you know? And the acting's good.
Nice. Yeah, maybe I'll give it another world. Yeah, the other thing I bump up against is I like to find out, because my TV viewing time is so limited, I like to find something that I can watch together with my family, right?
Right.
And so the darker, more explicit content is often not the most conducive family fare.
Yeah.
So is D&D continued to be a prominent theme in the show?
I haven't seen it so far in the second series, but I'm only a couple episodes in.
Yeah.
So it might make a return.
Was it more than the original in the first episode of the first season?
It was mostly highlighted in the first episode.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of setting the scene for those kids. And just a slight tangent on that. When I originally first watched that first episode of Stranger Things last year, they're playing the game and have that dramatic moment where the dungeon master in the game reveals the Demogorgon and he plops down the little miniature of the two-headed monster. I was like so excited when I saw it because I was telling my wife when we were watching, I have that miniature. I have it. So I ran downstairs to the basement and pulled out a box of old lead figures and pulled out that Demogorgon miniature that I had from back in the 80s. And I ended up selling it on eBay for $100.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That miniature was selling like hotcakes on eBay in the weeks after that series premiered.
Right. Oh, good for you, Tom. Turned a couple of bucks there.
Yep. So I didn't have any great emotional attachment to it. So right up on eBay.
There you go. You just strike while the iron is hot and call it a day.
Yep.
Are you continuing to D&D these days?
I haven't had any time lately.
Yeah, it's pretty close to the top of my, if I didn't have a bunch of other stuff to do, what I would be kind of doing list. I just have to make myself do it because my son and his friends who are in high school now, we're totally into it. We did it a couple times, and then life busyness got in the way.
Yeah.
So but I can see the high school window closing, right? So I want to get the most out of this opportunity while I can. I sent you a link on a article the New Yorker did on the resurgence of D&D.
Yeah.
Didn't know if you had a chance to check that out.
I did look at that.
Yeah, so basically it was sort of commenting on the odd, what it called the uncanny resurgence of D&D, right? And that it was sort of postulating two things. One is that in the internet age, it's a lot easier to find people who are obsessively geeky about things, not just D&D, but other things as well.
And we're thankful for that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think also probably accelerated in no small part by the fact that the early adopters and the developers of the internet were geeky obsessive people. So it's not simply that this is a technology that connects people, it's that we're already there. And so before, where being geekily obsessive over something, particularly like D&D, was a social outcast, like, oh, am I the only crazy person like this? Then there's a much higher level of awareness that no, there's plenty of people like this. And then I think more broadly, though, it was making the point of how now that we're 10 years past iPads and iPhones, and we're now firmly in the era of ubiquitous phones and screens and all that, the D&D is really a defiantly analog thing, and is in the same way that you can escape into your phone from reality. This is a way to escape from the digital onslaught and just have a pure human interaction experience, which is kind of funny when you think about D&D geeks being the ones that are leading the, the charge back into human social interaction.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem to have the stigma of geekiness as it once had. Or I guess we've talked about this before, how geekiness in general just doesn't have this stigma as it once had.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at things like the Adventure Zone, I mean, those guys are rock stars.
Yeah.
Right? So in the digital age, doing a podcast. So no, it's definitely crossed over into the mainstream.
Yeah, I keep trying to set aside some time to try to get a game going, but I can't find the time to do it right now.
Yeah.
It's high, very high on my list of something I want to get back into.
Yeah.
Like we talked about this before in an earlier episode, but in the past few years, I had been doing some play-by-forum Dungeons & Dragons playing, which is a very slow way of playing. But for those with limited time, it's a way to just get your itch.
Right.
But I haven't had any time for that lately. So,
is there any D&D discussion / content on Twitter? I'm looking to you, by the way, as my expert on all things Twitter now.
Oh yeah, there's lots of D&D discussion going on Twitter. If you follow the right people, yeah.
Okay, so about D&D, so what I'm trying to speculate here, open-endedly, is could you play a session of D&D via Twitter? So like, how is Twitter set up? Can you create like a closed group, or can you say, okay, for the next X number of hours, I create a group conversation between this set of 4 or 5 users?
There would be dozens and dozens of better ways to do it over the internet than using Twitter to do it.
Okay, but Twitter is a really dominant and observable platform.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking like use the tool that's already there and the people that are already there. And if you're trying to continually lower the bar of accessibility, if all you have to do is hop onto Twitter and join some thread, well, that could be a cool way to get people into it, right? It's like what the Adventure Zone, in terms of how they implemented D&D, has made me think of is how far can you get to the point of theater of the mind and yet still be playing something that has some sort of bound and structure. Like, we could just start right now and say, okay, Tom, you are a knight and you walked down a path and you encounter a door. What do you do?
Right.
And without any shared understanding at all of rules or dice or abilities. And then when you say, okay, I take out my axe and I try and hack down the door, then right then I'm making up, a response to that. As opposed to going off the other end of the extreme would be have a very detailed implementation where here's the strict rules and you sort of can't follow it. So I guess it kind of gravitates towards things like improv theater, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there's loads of different ways to play the game. And for every group that does play it, they play it differently than every other group. I mean, there's no set way to do it. So if you find a way to do it it's fun for everyone, you're winning.
D&D Twitter, because then it would be like a nice little showcase too. D&D Twitter.
I'm sure someone it's attempted that at some point. I just can't imagine how it would be easy to do.
All right, with all my free time, I will go and debug that problem and get it all set up. Okay, sweet.
But there's loads and loads of people playing it on Twitch now. I don't know if you ever looked at Twitch.
No, I have no awareness of Twitch. What is Twitch?
Twitch is originally started as a platform for people to stream themselves playing video games. But now there's more and more people just doing like video conference calls on their computers and streaming that, playing D&D or other role-playing games. So you get to watch a stream of 5-6 people in different parts of the world playing a session of Dungeons & Dragons.
Huh. So I'm wondering what the appeal of that is. Like if I'm going to follow a D&D session, what I want to follow is what people are saying and doing. I don't actually care what they look like when they're sitting at their desk. like that can't be part of the appeal of Twitch, right? It's not that you can see somebody talking into a microphone and rolling a die.
Well, it feels like you're at the table with them because you can see their expressions and how they're feeling. You can also, very often they use a shared tabletop system where you can see their various characters' location on a map.
Huh. So there is a sort of level of human interaction then.
Yeah. A lot of them I've tried watching for a couple minutes and just get bored with it.
Yeah.
There's some groups here and there that are very appealing and fun to watch, but they're few and far between.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would imagine it would be like podcasting or any other expression medium. You have
Right.
a bunch of amateurs, and
Yeah. If you like the personalities and you feel like you connect with the people, it's more fun to watch.
yeah,
Even if you can't participate.
right. Huh. So you're watching like a live feed, unedited, as it were.
Yeah.
So even if it's like, so for example, so the Adventure Zone podcast is very entertaining, but I would imagine, I think, what's the main dude's name there? Justin?
Griffin.
Griffin. He's mentioned before he does a heavy amount of editing.
Right.
So
yeah.
not to change the story, but just to like,
Take out all the cruft.
exactly. And you've mentioned before that in our podcast, you think in generally in podcasts, the editing is like the secret sauce to really upping the quality level, right?
It certainly works for us.
Yeah. So I wonder if you could have a really experienced DM with some really jovial, creative players who could play, but then you could edit it afterwards. Because that would be the problem is like, oh, am I going to invest 3 hours in watching? Would you want to invest 3 hours on the one hand listening to an unedited podcast? Not nearly as much as you'd want to listen to an edited podcast, right? So if you could edit that video stream. Maybe that's a thing, Tom, you can do with all your free time.
With all my free time,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And you can find a lot of these sessions on YouTube as well. A lot of people playing online these days.
Right.
So it's a lot easier to connect to different groups, especially across the world. I played for. I did have a game going a few years ago online on Roll20 on the Roll20 site that I got to play in for about a year or so, but that eventually ended, and I haven't picked up another game since then. But we were playing with people all over the U.S. and with a gentleman in the UK and a woman in Finland, another gentleman in Australia, all playing in the same game. It was great fun.
That's cool. See, D&D, yet another thread towards deconstructing tribalism.
Yep. But the current version of Dungeons and Dragons that's out now, that's being sold now, it's called the 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably the best version of the game they've had since the original. I've been a fan of the game since the 70s, and I've been followed at various times more closely than not the various changes in the game since then. What Wizards of the Coast is producing now with the game, I think they're doing a really, really good job with it.
Yeah, they seem to hit some sort of sweet spot there between creativity and some structure to hang your hat on. Good for them.
Yep.
Good job, Wizards. Keep being coasty.
Oh, some follow-up on Game Ray bursts.
Yes. Have you witnessed a gamma ray burst recently?
I have not, but a lot of other people have.
Okay.
Have you been following the neutron star collision story?
No.
This is like one of the most exciting discoveries in astronomy in a long time.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Huh. I may have seen reference to this because my smartphone, which is getting disturbingly, increasingly smarter, is suggesting news stories to me.
Yeah.
And it says, because you were interested in gamma ray bursts, right? And then I saw some link that I'd never clicked through, but yes, pray tell, are we all about to be subsumed by a local gamma ray burst?
Not local. We're
Okay.
safe. We're safe.
Okay, good.
But you've heard of gravitational waves.
Yeah. Which, by the way, so that was a big deal when they discovered it recently?
Yes.
What was that, the LIGO?
The LIGO Observatory last year made the first direct observations of gravitational waves, which is a theorized characteristic of the universe that had not to this point been detected until now.
Yeah, I remember reading about that and then thinking, I'm either completely missing the boat or I am incredibly insightful about this phenomenon because it seemed really obvious to me. It's kind of like if you imagine sound waves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just take a couple of rocks and bang them together. You can imagine the visual of that as just waves propagating out, or just throw a rock in a pond. But if you had some sort of gravitational event occur, you would have similar propagations out in the gravitational field.
Yes. And it had been theorized by Einstein 100 years ago. But the problem was that these ripples in space-time are so delicate that it's so hard to detect that you need an incredibly sensitive instrument to actually confirm that they do in fact exist. And it took 100 years before humanity was able to build such an instrument. And they did so last year and made detections of merging black holes, which are huge high-energy events that send out ripples through space-time that were able to be picked up on Earth.
So an incredibly sensitive instrument observing an incredibly high energy event.
Yes.
right? So it's not
Very
just
far away as well.
right. So if you had an even more sensitive instrument, you could detect gravitational waves from just knocking two rocks together. That would have to be ridiculously sensitive.
Yeah, that'd be many, many, many orders of magnitude more sensitive. Yes.
Right. So they detected these waves and they were all excited about it.
Yes, and that won, that won the normal Nobel Prize last year. But the latest event that was detected, the previous events that they had detected gravitational waves were all merging black holes, which give off a certain kind of gravitational wave evidence that astronomers can recognize them as merging black holes.
Right.
They had a new type of event that occurred just in this past August. That was the collision of two neutron stars. And the reason that this event was so exciting is because it was also accompanied by a gamma ray burst at the same time, or almost exactly at the same time, that was picked up by different instruments.
And so the theory is that the collision of neutron stars is one of the primary sources of gamma ray bursts?
To a certain kind of gamma ray burst, yes. I mean, that was theorized, but this was, again, direct evidence of it. And also, there are now 3 different separate observatories in the world that can do gravitational wave detections. And so now with 3, you can do triangulation. So they were able to tell from what part of the sky to look. And the call went out to professional astronomers all over the world to try to find out where this was happening. And they were able to find in a galaxy 130 million light years away a sudden brightening object that wasn't there previously, that was slowly fading. So they were able to capture the same event in the visible spectrum. So they were able to see these colliding neutron stars in 3 different detection methods: gravitational waves, gamma ray bursts, and visible spectrum. And just the whole world of professional astronomy was just lit up with excitement in the past couple months on this. All the papers that have been coming out, I've read somewhere that it's has involved 1/3 of all professional astronomers in the world have been in on this discovery.
Wow. So they're excited because they can see this event in 3 different formats: visible, gamma ray, and gravitational.
And you can collect data and be able to understand what's going on a lot more. And it's confirming a lot of their theories about what they expected to happen. And they're also gaining new insights on what happens in these high energy collisions of neutron stars.
Huh. I'm still struggling to understand why it is so exciting. Like, why does it have reason? I can understand why it's exciting within that world.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there reason why non-astronomy geeks should be excited for its crossover into mainstream knowledge?
Yeah. It confirms a lot of ideas astrophysics has had about how the universe works. For example,
Okay.
in the early universe, after the Big Bang, basically nothing existed in the universe except for hydrogen and helium. That was basically it.
Right.
There was no heavier elements. The reason that we have heavier elements today is because billions of years in the past, stellar fusion took place in the middle of masses of hydrogen gas to forge heavier elements in the cores of stars
Right.
that eventually blew themselves apart and entered the interstellar medium and formed.
Oh, can I pause you?
Yeah.
I know this because I saw a cool video about it.
Okay.
History of the Universe from that same dude that did History of Japan.
Right.
Wicked, awesome, entertaining history that we can link to.
Right. So all these stars that have evolved in the distant past of the universe created all these heavier elements up to, in the periodic table, up to about iron, I think.
Okay.
And spread them out into the interstellar medium, which coalesced and formed new stars and new planets. And in supernovas, when stars go supernova, the energies involved there can create even heavier elements.
Okay.
But there's not any explanation for all the very super heavy elements that we have, except for possibly the very high energy impacts of neutron stars, which are very dense cores of extinct stars.
Okay.
So things like silver, gold, platinum, uranium, plutonium, those were all created in neutron star collisions in the distant past that were blown out into the universe, coalesced again, recycled over and over again. So if you have, like a gold ring,
Right.
or a silver spoon, all the atoms in that gold ring were created in a neutron star collision billions of years ago. Because once you're a gold atom,
Right.
you stay a gold atom to the end of time. There's no going back. It's not like a radioactive element that decays into something else. It's going to stay gold forever.
Okay. So, a couple questions then. Okay.
Yeah.
So for my really basic, I won't even call it armchair. What's below armchair? Like for my toddler high chair understanding of chemistry.
Yeah.
If I'm just visualizing the chart of the periodic table of elements.
Yep.
With hydrogen at the very beginning.
Yep.
And then these much heavier elements that you're talking about towards the end.
Exactly. Right.
So the atomic structure, meaning the number of electrons and
Protons.
neutrons and protons that are
Yep.
composing these things, is much simpler at the very beginning.
Right.
So like hydrogen is the first one, right?
Hydrogen, it's got a single proton. Helium's got 2 protons. Right.
Those are like easy peasy lemon squeezy. You're gonna make these whatever. You can make those elements with your eyes closed. It's not very hard.
And that's all that existed in the early universe after the Big Bang.
Okay.
It was hydrogen, helium, and maybe a little bit of lithium.
So from nothing, you have lots of really, really simple Lego blocks.
Right.
That'd be a good way to
Yeah.
think about it. Okay. And then if you are going to create more complex pieces that have more protons, neutrons, electrons, you're going to need a forging furnace of a higher temperature.
Right. And that's usually nuclear fusion in the cores of stars. That creates a lot of the heavier elements mass of the universe.
Right. And so gravity takes these much simpler pieces and melts them down, basically.
Smushes them together with so much pressure that they overcome their repellent force to create heavier elements.
Overcome their repellent. Ooh, dude, that's cool. Overcome repellent. What repellent force? What do you mean?
Like the nuclear forces that keep things apart. If there's enough pressure, you can overcome that and cause protons to come together and to form heavier elements.
Okay. So a star can do that, and then it creates these more complex components, elements.
Yep.
And then a supernova explodes that out into interstellar space.
Yep.
So now you have a soup with more complex pieces, and then gravity does its thing over time, and it creates a what? It creates a star with some like planets and gaseous things that are orbiting it, which now have more complex elements. And so the theory was, all right, fine, but there's no explanation for how to get the most complex pieces like gold and such until we observed these kinds of super hot furnaces like neutron stars combining?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And the only reason that we can exist today, our bodies, our planets that are composed of carbon and oxygen and these heavier elements,
right?
The only reason that we can even exist is because these things have happened over and over and over again for billions of years in the universe already. We could not exist. We could not exist in the early universe because there was only hydrogen and helium. It's the fact that we've had these stars born and die over and over again, and these massive stars collapse into neutron stars, and then 2 neutron stars colliding together to throw out even heavier elements into the universe. And the fact that that's happened over and over again throughout the entire universe over billions of years, that alone is what enables our existence and our planets, our rocky planet with oxygen and atmosphere.
So a single star can't create pieces more complex than what, helium?
I think a single star can create up to, I think it's like iron in the periodic table is like the most common heavier element that is, because once there's more and more pressure in the core of a star, heavier elements are created. But once you get to iron, something breaks down, and that's when you have a core collapse, or I don't know the exact details.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like the star is this production mechanism, this production warehouse for the more complex Lego pieces. But if you try and push the limit and get something more complex than iron, then the whole production facility is it's overwhelmed.
Right.
In order to create something. So therefore you need an even higher energy impact kind of event like what you're talking about.
Like a supernova or the merging of 2 neutron stars.
The fact that it takes something like the merging of 2 neutron stars, because just to remember here, most of space is space.
Right.
Right? So it's not like every couple of miles there's a neutron star, such that it would be easy and likely that neutron stars would be slamming into each other all the time. So the fact that you would have to wait until 2 neutron stars just happened to be able to collide is just underscores how much time this all takes to happen.
Billions of years is a long time.
Right.
So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why people are excited, because, I mean, this is something they have guessed could be possible. Now they're seeing it and they can measure what's going on. They can observe it.
Right.
And they can observe it across a wide array of different observational methods.
Yeah, I'm personally not that excited about the fact that they can observe it. I mean, I'm happy for them, and I'm sure they're having some parties. But the explanation you just gave me about like, okay, well now we can confirm that like our understanding of how these more complex pieces were constructed. That seems pretty satisfying. So the collision of neutron stars, is this the highest energy phenomena in the universe that we know of?
It's one of them, yeah. They're called kilonovas.
That's pretty cool. Kilonova. Is it too late to change our podcast name? So what I'm wondering is, so at some point in the universe, there were only simple elements. And then eventually we got heavier elements. And then eventually, like at some point in the universe, we had oxygen, but we didn't have gold.
Yeah.
Right? And so it took time and churning in order to create that. I wonder if, so is it theoretically possible that we're still ramping up in terms of the power of our furnaces here, that we have not yet reached the limit of the highest energy impact events, such that there could be even heavier elements?
Well, I mean, we have been able to create heavier elements than are found in nature,
right?
Through smashing atoms together, right?
By like cheating, and they exist for like a few milliseconds, and then you get a Nobel Prize,
right? But I mean, they're inherently unstable, and so if they occurred naturally in the universe, which they may have in these high energy explosions,
right,
they would decay almost immediately anyway. So you wouldn't find any trace of them, for the same reason as when we create them on Earth, they disappear almost immediately.
Right. So we think that we've found the most complex stable element. Is that correct?
I believe. I mean, we're not experts here about anything, but
we are pushing the bounds of our chemistry knowledge at this point.
I believe there's a theoretical, what's called an island of stability, that's higher up in the progression of elements, that there may be stable elements that we haven't discovered yet.
Oh, all right.
But that's just theoretical, I think, at this point. No one's been able to prove that or find evidence of that.
Right. 2-bit geekonium. I'm just going to propose that for the most complex of elements.
So I thought it was cool. It's certainly all the astronomy geeks are very excited about this discovery.
Well, that's cool. Well, thank you for explaining that. I feel like I have a little bit better understanding of chemistry.
But yeah, we had recently talked about gamma ray bursts, and they detected a gamma ray burst tied to this event. It wasn't close enough to be harmful to us. It's like in a different galaxy, hundreds of millions of light years away. But it was still a gamma ray burst.
So it's always hard to tell, Tom, when you're in the middle of history as it evolves, how pivotal the moment is for whatever you're following. Sort of proximity bias.
Yeah.
Right. Of overemphasizing the import of what you're observing. But do you feel like astronomy is kind of emerging into like a new golden age in terms of our ability to, presuming that we don't blow up ourselves first, right? And that like we have this ability now with like more sensitive equipment that can breach the atmosphere, right? And that we're more coordinated, obviously, and the digital revolution. Do you feel like we're kind of
we're in a new age of discovery right now with astronomy, I think, yeah. Especially in the past few decades with exoplanet discoveries. These new gravitational wave observations are a completely different way to observe the universe that we never had before. It seems like we're seeing new things all the time now, which is really exciting for the armchair astronomer.
Right.
Speaking of which, even though that neutron star collision wasn't exciting enough, there was something new in astronomy that we've never seen before happen in the last couple of weeks.
Yes, you sent me this link, and I was very excited because for me, this is definitive evidence of the intergalactic alert system with regards to, and then we just had the gamma ray burst. So, right. So we had a probe confirmed sent from a sentient civilization.
No.
This is like the Vulcans. They're saying, okay, have humans developed warp drive yet? Are we ready to send the first contact ship out?
No,
right? Pretty much.
No. You're trying to get the more fanciful solution proposed before we even talk about it.
I saw a picture of this, and I don't see anything in that picture that definitively rules out a interstellar probe. But yes, why don't you give us the more pedantic version of what we're
All
talking
right,
about?
to explain what we're talking about, just in the past couple of weeks, astronomers have discovered what looked like a comet. Comets are spotted orbiting the sun all the time, and people make observations of these all the time. What normally comets are, they are big ice balls that come in through the outer solar system, come in close to the sun, again, orbit around really quick, and then zip out again. Occasionally, we can see them in the night sky if they're big and close enough.
Right.
But this one comet that they just discovered in the past couple of weeks, when they started taking observations of it and working down its orbit, they found that it didn't have an elliptical orbit. It had a hyperbolic orbit.
So for those of us not familiar with ellipses and a hyperbola in a easily understandable fashion,
It's a curve. A hyperbolic orbit is a curve that does not close in on itself. It's open ended. So what that tells us about this body that was observed is that it came in on a very high inclination angle, basically coming right down from the direction of the constellation of Lyra.
okay.
Zipped around the sun, and then zipped out past Earth, going a completely opposite direction in an open angled orbit, which it implied that it was entering the solar system from interstellar space. This is the first time this has been seen. An object from outside of the solar system coming into the inner solar system, zipping around the sun, and then exiting again.
Yeah. So on a so I looked at a picture. So we could probably link to the little video here that I thought was fairly educational in terms of understanding what's going on. But basically, if you were to try and finish that line, that hyperbolic line of the path of this object, it would go so far out. Exactly. It doesn't, like you said, it does not close back in on itself, therefore implying that it is not orbiting the sun.
Right. Its velocity is so high that it's not captured by the sun. It's continuing out again.
Yeah, so that was kind of, I read as a somewhat separate point from the orbit trajectory, which is, so it's going at I think it was 42 kilometers a second.
I'm not sure at the speed, but it's fast.
Yeah, it's basically going faster than anything could be going that is still orbiting the sun. It is...
it has escape velocity from the sun.
Exactly. So, therefore, it's not orbiting. And the last sort of nail in the coffin, if it was a comet, it would have a trail, what they call if I'm not getting this right, a coma? Is that correct? You know this term, Tom?
Yeah. They're not, as they've made the follow-up observations, they're not seeing the outgassing that you usually see with comets. So they think it's more like an asteroid or some sort of rocky structure. But it's estimated to be about a quarter mile in size, in diameter.
Right. So, it doesn't have that comet tail. And so, therefore, add it all up, and it is an alien object.
Alien in the sense that it's coming from outside the solar system, not alien in the sense of, green-eyed, whatever.
Right. So, Tom.
Yeah.
This thing could have been... The solar system is vast. Can I get you to agree to that first?
Absolutely.
Okay. Lot of space in the solar system. And this thing that is not orbiting the sun.
Yep.
Right? Decides to enter our solar system really close to the sun and really close to the Earth. Like if you were to map out the entire solar system and just randomly pick a spot to enter in, the odds of getting that close to the sun and the Earth are pretty close to zero, right? In terms of just randomly picking a spot in the entire length of the solar system, right? So you don't think it's a little odd that it happens to come so close to the sun and then happens to come so close to the Earth? If it's not orbiting the sun, it really should have come in anywhere.
The neat thing about it is because it very closely resembles what happened in the Arthur C. Clarke book, Rendezvous with Rama.
Oh, I didn't know that. What happened in that book?
Where the alien megastructure enters the solar system, loops around the sun, and then zips out again to go somewhere else.
Right.
And in the meantime, Earth was observing what was going on, and they sent astronauts to visit it. But this is something people have theorized. There should be asteroids and stuff like that in interstellar space that are ejected from solar systems, traveling between stars. This is just the first time we've seen it, and it confirms that, oh yeah, this type of thing exists out there. This is what we should expect to see every once in a while. We have better instruments to detect these things now, so it makes sense that we've seen one. I'm sure this has happened before and we missed it because we didn't have the ability to capture an image of it.
Right. I just think the entry point is extremely suspicious.
Well, I mean, it's obviously it's attracted towards the most massive thing in the solar system.
Attracted to. But if it already has escape velocity, I mean, it's not controlled by the sun's gravity, right?
It was affected by the sun's gravity, though.
Yeah.
As it's approaching the solar system, it'll be drawn towards the most massive object that's exerting the most gravitational control. And it when it came in, its orbit was bent. It picked up speed and then zipped out again.
All right.
But I mean, I'll concede if you were going to make a space probe from Vega and send it to the solar system, that's probably the trajectory you'd put it on.
Okay, that makes me happy. I'm happy with that. Exactly. That's exactly what you would do. And we have no. And if you look at the picture of this thing, it's just a blur. So we don't. We say it's an asteroid, but the mental image of that is this contoured rock. But all we're really saying is that it's something that we can't see.
Yeah. So, like Tabby Star, it's fun to imagine what it could be, but it's the more boring explanation is very much most likely to be the case.
I would argue that there's no basis for saying that, but okay, fine. Keep your eyes peeled for the benevolent gamma ray burst advanced warning system coming to us from the good folks at, what did you say, Lyra?
They think it's coming from roughly in the direction of the constellation of Lyra. And the brightest star in Lyra is Vega, which is one of the closest big stars to us.
Well, I, for one, welcome our new vegan overlords.
Oh, jeez. Vegans.
They're taking over the world.
Vegans are the worst.
Wouldn't that be something if we were visited by aliens and
they turned out to be vegans? Oh.
It was all gluten-free.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. This episode of Two Big Geeks was brought to you by our amazing supporters on Patreon. A special thank you to Xavier Lambin from Belgium, who supports the podcast at the Mega Fan support level. If you would like to contribute to the podcast, you can support us on Patreon too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you.